Hi, where am I getting you from today?
Oh, you know what? This is crazy. Somewhere in Ohio, and I forget the name of the town.
It's not Akron.
It's not Akron. I'm producing a band, and they rented this farmhouse in like northeastern Ohio, and I have no idea where I am. But I'm glad I found a Wi-Fi signal, and I was able to do this. So
That works for me. I won't take up too much of your time here,
no, it's
but
all good.
a pleasure to connect. And I think the first thing that I want to know about Monarch is, are you cool with people giving it the all-star band kind of moniker at the beginning here?
So, yeah, I mean, first, well, I love it, of course, but it's almost embarrassing in a way because it's like, I don't want to come out and say anything like that, but I saw somebody put supergroup and, of course I'm excited to hear that, but we got to earn that first, right?
I think it can be earned based on the number of shows that you guys did in your old bands, the credits, you had record deals, you did interviews. I was saying all-star, you said supergroup. Different terms there. Whatever it is, you're a parentheses band where at the beginning they have to say Ryan parentheses. I would have to assume that goes away after the second hit.
Okay, maybe. So it's kind of like we became doctors. So you have to call me Dr. Williams for a little bit, and then I'll take that. I'll take it for now. How about that?
Well, that's an interesting thing you pointed out, that you're right now working with a band. I know after you left your last band, you focused more on writing for other artists. Is that something that you like doing, or something you realized that you could do and you did it while you could?
It's both, I think. I've always liked doing it, but it was few and far between when I was doing it for other people. I was so focused on Red Sun Rising, and there's a weird kind of nervousness too, because it's like I'm failing on my own terms if I fail in Red Sun Rising. So when I bring in my perspective to another group, if it doesn't work, that's almost scarier in some ways, So I do really enjoy it though, and I always learn something. You never know who you're going to be working with, and I'm working with a younger band right now, and their perspective is really interesting. Really talented players.
I asked it because there's a co-writer. He was a major label artist, then he became a co-writer for other artists and a producer. And he was explaining to me that what he liked about it is he was at that point like 48 years old, and he was writing with a lot of female songwriters who were in their late 20s, early 30s. And he kind of figured that he could hear the situation they were going through. And as an older person, he could kind of channel that, like, hey, yeah, I remember that 15 years ago in my life. And then just write a song as a woman of that age. And it was kind of like a fun puzzle, a creative challenge. Is it along the lines like that for you?
Yeah, in some ways it is. I ahead of time, I told these guys what their influences were. They're bands I've toured with, but not necessarily bands I've played like that were in my stereo. So I had to adopt that mentality a little bit for sure, and tell their look at things through their eyes when they're telling their stories. So yeah, you do. You have to kind of be a chameleon in some ways, but then you have to know where the checks and balances are, because there's things that I've learned that they're gonna learn that maybe bringing me in brings some of that to the table sooner. You know what I'm saying? There's some of those cut your teeth moments, those aha, wow, I can't believe it took us 3 years to figure that out moments. So I'm hoping to bring a little bit of that.
I am going to ask more about Monarch, but I'm curious, when you talk about the influences, as a person in their late 30s, what I cut my teeth on punk rock wise was, of course, Green Day and Rancid in the mid 90s. And then you go back and you go, oh, okay, the Ramones, the Sex Pistols, okay, people even before that. But then I find when you speak to people who are teenagers or in their early 20s, they're like, I like old school stuff like Blink-182. And you go, oh, I'm an old man. I'm curious who some of those artists that they were influenced by, that is one or two generations after you, who those artists might be.
Well, okay, so these guys, and these are all bands I've played with, Beartooth and like Bring Me the Horizon, excellent bands. Guys I've met, guys I've been on the same stage with, but I was in my own world doing my own thing, and my influences came a lot out of the 90s and out of the 70s and 60s and stuff. So you know, like Bring Me the Horizon is one of those bands that brings a lot of these loops into their play. Like that's part of the biggest part of their hook. And then there's these crazy like metal grooves and drops that open up to these massive vocal hooks. And a lot of that I get, but some of it is so far out of my wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Like those loops and stuff. So I just wanted to wrap my head around it a little bit before I came in trying to pretend like I got what they were going for. And, you know, at the end of the day, a song still needs to be able to, you should be able to grab one instrument and one singer and execute the song great. And that's a great song. And then all the other stuff afterwards, that's where the great musicianship and production comes in, you know?
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard that and that struck a chord with me was when the Beastie Boys are talking about working with Rick Rubin at a certain point in the 90s. And he said, if you can't play it as an unplugged thing, it's not a song. And that's along the lines of what you were saying there.
I agree with that. It's there's something that's what makes it that's what gives it longevity, and it gives it you know, fans can see through things that are overly manufactured. I feel like I see the older you get, especially, I feel like you see that a lot. And when you take that element away, what you're really listening to is a bunch of people producing something versus the song that came from wherever it came from. And I think that's what he's trying to say. And you can see through that. Those kinds of songs seem to not connect the same way, you know, and they don't connect to me the same way.
The music that you've done in your old band and of course this band have choruses, they have hooks. Were you ever a hair metal guy, a Kiss fan, anything like that?
Well, I mean, Metallica was the reason I played, if we're talking hair metal. Does that count, or is that not hair metal? Is that not big hair metal?
It's not hair metal, but they use the same producer that a lot of the classic hair band artists use, Bob Rock. So
Bob Rock, yeah.
Technicality, yes.
I have a funny Bob Rock story, but
please.
So well, so I'll say this. So this is what I'll say. I kind of came from the era where the 90s was cool and in play. So like the you know, Poison was not really my jam, but Metallica was. Ozzy Osbourne out of the 80s was, and then some of the other stuff. But even Motley Crue missed me a little bit. As much as I think those guys are incredible, just missed me a little bit.
Are you allowed to tell your Bob Rock story? I've had the pleasure of interviewing Bob, and he couldn't have been nicer, but is that off the record?
No, I'll tell you right now. So when Metallica got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
sure,
I got hired. They rented Red Sun Rising's bass amp. So the amp that you're seeing Flea use when he jams with Robert Trujillo and Jason Newsted, those were both our amplifiers, right? In fact, one of them I got from Guitar Center and rented, and just told them I already had it so that they would rent it so I could come. Because then they gave me an all access pass. This is years ago. This is before anybody knew who Red Sun Rising was. And we had just made our first demo. So I had all access, and they had the table set up for the big night, and all the big industry guys and all the artists from Eminem to Russell Simmons to Metallica, and they had these huge gift bags. So I went out to my van and got all my demos and put Red Sun Rising CDs in everybody's gift bag. And the only person that came and talked to me was Bob Rock. And it was, awesome. That's my Bob Rock story.
That's a great story. I'll take it. So, hey, back to you. We were connected to talk about the band Monarch. The Fray is the first song that most people are going to hear from the band.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
That's how it goes with blitzes and hypes and all that. Is that the song that you knew unanimously when you made it of, hey, this is the great first impression? Or was it just the first thing that was mastered?
Man, I think great first impression. We wanted something higher energy that showcased kind of all elements of the band, including songwriting, but also the rhythm section. I think they killed that song. Just great bass parts and awesome drumming. And then it showcases Sebastian as well. But it was kind of that song for us, we thought was kind of the perfect storm for a lead off. Like, this is us. I didn't want to go too slow, not too heavy, just right there, right where you got it, you know?
Well, how many songs are in the can, or at least written?
40-ish. So we're writing all the time. This band is no shortage. Everybody in this band writes. So 40-ish. And then we're going to narrow that down to an album. We're not quite sure what that number looks like, but we're in the process of figuring that out right now.
if I did my research correctly, you got Sebastian out of Norman, Oklahoma, which is
That's
actually a city I've been to. The home
You've
of
been to Norman?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever liked professional wrestling, but the most famous announcer, Jim Ross, is from, or at least he lives in Norman. So I was in Oklahoma City and I said, I want to interview Jim. And they said, well, if you could be in Norman at this time, you can interview him at the restaurant he goes to. And okay. But
That's
Norman,
awesome.
Norman gave the world Blake Griffin and a lot
Seriously?
of, yeah.
I didn't know any of that. That's funny. I didn't know any of that. I've not been there yet, but Sebastian seems to think we got to go play Tulsa, which is 2 hours from Norman. But yeah, Jim Ross, I'll tell you what, I've been hooked on. Those Dark Side of the Ring shows are fun, man. Those are fantastic. On Vice, you watch those shows?
Of course. And they don't make you feel good about humanity when you watch them, but they are entertaining.
I guess not. Wait till they come out with the Dark Side of Music. That's going to be a rough one.
Yeah, those used to be called Behind the Music, but I think that a lot of those could be using an update. So was finding Sebastian a YouTube thing, like how they found the singer of Journey?
It was a Facebook post that I was really, I waited 3 months to make that post. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I honestly was worried that maybe if people wouldn't reply to it, and I was like, well, that's a sign of the times, right? Maybe I should find something else to do. But I posted the Facebook post and I woke up in the morning and I had 150 auditions and I was really blown away by that. And so many, there were incredible singers, male, female, old, young. But he was like the fifth one in and he did a Queen song. And he did it so well that I called him and I asked him if it was him for sure. And he was like, why would it not be me? So we were still suspicious. We made him do that song a cappella on Zoom, and he did it. He did it, and he killed it. And that was it. We got him a plane ticket, got him out. So,
wow. Was that recorded? Meaning that you have that for future posterity for a DVD Easter egg?
I do. I have, well, not the Zoom call, but I have the recording he sent me of him doing it. Yes.
Because there's a thing, this is the second time I'm bringing up Kiss. On one of their DVDs, there's this hidden thing that if you touch it on the menu or you press it on the menu of it, it shows their first ever gig on Long Island, New York. The video of it, really rough, grainy stuff from '74, but you can have that idea if you want.
Okay, I might steal it. I'm going to take Kiss's DVDs idea. That's great. We need some Easter eggs, right? We're a new band that has kind of a past, so we've talked a little bit about what that might look like. That's why it's hard to pinpoint how many songs are going to be on the record right now.
Well, you've told me how many songs are in the works right now. Do you know about the future of the band, like when your first on the road jaunt will be?
No, but I will say this. We got incredible positive feedback from the release of The Fray. We had a really fun weekend, and it was amazing to catch up with music industry people, but more importantly, Red Sun Rising fans, Wilson fans, and then people that I've never met before. But we did get some interesting offers for tours, and I was really, really happy considering that was the first thing anyone's heard from us. So it's like, okay, somebody likes it somewhere. So we got some interesting show opportunities, and we have not committed to anything yet, but soon, I'm sure.
So if I can recap here, you are writing and producing for other artists when the good opportunities come up. The band is writing, looking at the touring kind of thing. Sounds like you are not very bored, that your 2020 and early 2021 were a regrouping time, but you stayed creative. A lot of artists didn't stay creative in 2020.
I almost didn't. I had a few months there, and this isn't the first time I've kind of had to deal with myself, but when COVID first hit, I think I spent 2 months or so really being lazy and not creative. And I just didn't think it was going to pan out. I'd never seen anything like this in my life in quarantine. So this will be 2 weeks. So I thought I'll take those 2 weeks to be a total POS. I don't know if we can curse on this show, but piece of shit.
Fine.
Okay. So, I was, Netflix and just bad food and whatever. And I think 2 months had gone by, and I was like, well, if this is going to last, this can't be my routine, because I'm going to come out of this way worse off than we started. So that was actually the time I called the bassist, James, and he lived in Detroit. And he had already heard some of my ideas. And I said, what do you think about actually coming down? I need to do something. And he came down and we started working these out. In fact, we worked the fray out instrumentally and then sent that to Sebastian. That was the first thing he came back with and said, I have something you might really like for this. I'd love to try it.
Wow. Okay. Because again, a lot of the artists I was speaking to, for example, the singer of the Fratellis, I said, so how many songs have you written for your next album? He goes, I've written 1.5 songs in the last 2 years and change. So you kind of took the different route with all that.
I've been there, I guess. I can't, you know, you never know when the mood's going to hit you. For me, writing is like a muscle in a way. The more I do it, the more prolific I become. And if I get stagnant, then that's just the way it is, I guess, with me. I have to be working to keep working. If I slow down, I stop.
Sure. Well, my closing question for you, besides, hey, check out the fray, follow us on social media. Besides that, any last words for the kids?
The kids.
Sure.
Keep your heads up. It's all going to get better. And follow your dreams. It can happen. It's not luck. You make your own luck.
There you go. Well, I'm looking forward to eventually seeing you live in New York when the time is right. And your singer is right. You should play in Tulsa. They call it the Austin of Oklahoma. So take that for what that's worth.
Absolutely. That was one of our old hot spots in Redstone Rising. So
there you go. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ryan. Looking forward to everything that's coming from you, and including that album you're producing now.
Oh man, hey, thanks for having us. Anytime, let me know when you want us back. We'll be here.
Paltrocast.